All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachak Kodash. I'd like to start off, by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachak Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Passover and the Parting of the Red Sea. And pretty much, you brothers already seen the situation with the IUIC and Nate doing this video about the Passover registration. And I guess people got to register. They got to register all the way in Atlanta for this whole situation. But whatever, that's besides the point. This guy, Nate, somebody said it. I'm trying to remember who it was. It might have been the brother Karatas out of Vegas, who was on the comment board right now. I said he's a demigod. I believe he was the one that sent me the text, that said this guy's a demigod, and that's exactly what he is. Pretty much Nate to the IUIC and these people out here, Nate is their savior. And this is why they did this, because this is implying that this guy is Moses. Shalom to the Akim on the comment board. Brother Tazawam from what is that? Nebraska, is that? Brother's at? He put Nate as a super demon. But yeah, and pretty much, this is the product of a child left to himself, because, some men are leaders, and they could lead other men, and they really don't really need so much guidance themselves, because the Spirit of the Lord guides them. But you have other men that may be leaders, they may be leadership material, but they don't have the quality to govern themselves, to lead themselves. So they need other men there to give them a little push along here and there, or to give them, the right perspective, so to speak. When you when it comes down to decision making, and Nate is a type of individual that needs somebody to guide him. And I'm not talking about the Spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Shai, because obviously the Spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Shai is not guiding this individual, because if it was, he wouldn't be doing the things that he's doing. He wouldn't be disrespecting and dishonoring and blaspheming and taking the Lord's name in vain. Now what I did notice about this whole video, this production that they did is that they have Nate, I guess he's playing Moses, and he's in the middle of the sea. If you see, he's in the middle of the sea, holding the waters back to make the way for Israel to pass, which signifies that they secretly, or not secretly, did I say secretly? They're pretty much outwardly saying that Nate is Moses, and he's the one that's going to part the water. He's going to be the one to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt, New Egypt. And this is going off in itself, not just because he's exalted himself, which we're going to get that, but also because he's in the middle of the sea, pushing the waters back, and that's not what Moses did. All right, so we're going to get into it, Lord's will, and just deal with it, and show give the sense and the edification on what happened. But before I go there, I want to go to Deuteronomy 16:16. It says, 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Shai thy power, in the place which he shall choose. So this is the Most High giving a decree that 3 times in a year, all the males were supposed to appear before the Lord in the place which he shall choose, which the first Passover, which Lord's will, we're going to read a little bit of that because it's a long chapter. The first Passover was held with every individual family. Every individual family had the Passover at their home. you know, and the only way that you had more than one family together, you know, in celebrating the Passover is if the family was a small family and they had a lamb that was it would be too much meat for them, and you had another small family that lived near them or whatever the case was, and they would merge together, you know, and those two families would keep the Passover, you know. But normally it would have been those families set apart, you know, each individual family by themselves. So in process of time, the Lord said that all the males would come to worship before the Lord 3 times in a year, and it's going to give you the 3 different feasts or high holy days that they would follow. You know, so IUIC having their women in these Passovers really is going off, because when you go to Yahweh Shai's Passover that he kept with his disciples, there were no women there. It was just men. They were in the upper room, you know, and there were no women there, just men. It says in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the Passover, because if you know anything about the Passover is the night of the 14th at evening into the 15th, which is the same night of unleavened bread, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, because during the Passover, you didn't eat any unleavened bread, and during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you didn't eat unleavened bread. So the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread pretty much fell on the same night, but this particular night of the Passover is when Yahweh Shai passed over the nation of Israel and went into Egypt and destroyed and killed all of the firstborn of the Egyptians, from the top Pharaoh all the way down to his servants, you know, to the people in the prison. Anyone that was in Egypt at this particular time, that had a family, their firstborn was dead. So you got to remember, this was a lot of families. So Yahweh Shai mass murdered a whole bunch of people that night, you know, and the Yahweh Shai is coming back for blood and for vengeance. See, these people talking about, when they talk about Jesus, they talking about that other white meat. You know, they talking about Serapis Christus / Caesar Borgia, you know, / the other white meat. They're not talking about Yahweh Shai, because Yahweh Shai gets busy. Yahweh Shai takes, he doesn't take no name. He doesn't take no prisoners. He just takes people out, you know. And they're talking about the Most High. They don't know the Most High. They don't understand the first and last thing about the Most High. You know, they have the Most High in an unbalanced light in this world, because they say that the Most High is all love. Yeah, the Most High has love. He has love for his people. He has love for his elect, but he also hates. He also gets angry. He also brings destruction. He also creates evil and allows evil to be in different parts of the world. So they really don't understand, you know. So in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and in the Feast of Weeks, and in the Feast of Tabernacles, you know, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. So these were the 3 feasts that the Lord said that the children of Israel would appear before the Lord, which was the Passover, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, so-called Pentecost, or the Feast of First Fruits, and the Feast of Tabernacles. And they shall not appear before the Lord empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy power, which he hath given thee. You know, so you would bring something, you know, whether it was a bottle of wine, whether it was whatever, money to pay for whatever, you know. So you weren't supposed to come empty-handed. All right. So now let's go from there to the book of Exodus 12. Let's read a little bit about the Passover. It says, and the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, so this is before they actually took their trip. Now you got to remember that this parting of the sea, you know, which, let's go to a map. Gulf of Suez. Images. All right. Now, this is a map. On the left side, which is the western side, is where you had the land of Egypt. And you had the Nile River and, you know, all the different rivers that they had going through Egypt. Then you had what they call the Red Sea, which is really the Reed Sea. The Reed Sea. because there were a lot of different reeds within the sea that they call it the Reed Sea. It's not really the Red Sea. But then you had the Red Sea down here, which technically the children of Israel really didn't cross the Red Sea, although these canals are linked to the Red Sea. They really crossed through the canals, So then you had on the left side, you had this canal, Suez Canal, and on the right side you had the Gulf. I'm sorry, the Gulf of Suez, and on the right side you had the Gulf of Aqaba. So they crossed through the Gulf of Suez. More than likely, they had to be somewhere up in the northern region, where there wasn't a whole lot of water. Because you got to remember, you talking about a whole lot of people. There are different accounts, but you're talking about a whole lot of people crossing that body of water. Can you imagine how long it would take them to cross if they went through the actual Red Sea? It would take them probably days, for all those people to cross. So that when they were here, this is where they crossed, somewhere along these lines here. All right. So it says, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So when the Passover comes in, the Passover was the actual beginning of the year. And when you go to different ancient cultures, such as the Moabites, and even the Russians, different nations, they celebrate their new year, like towards the end of winter, which sometimes comes in late February, early March, depending, on the time of the year, because even the Moabites, sometime in February, I believe it was, maybe late February, early March, they celebrated their new year, which they call the spring festival, because they're celebrating spring coming in again, because the winter months, or the winter season, are the hardest seasons to get by, So when the spring would come in, they would celebrate the spring. Now, when you watch that movie, The Book of Eli, the chick Solara, she asked Denzel Washington, which Mila Kunis, I believe her name is. She asked Denzel Washington how old he was, and he said it's been 30 winters since the blast. So he counted the years according to the winters, because those were the hardest months to get by. So during the time of the Passover, that's the time of when winter is coming to an end and spring is coming in. All right. So that is the beginning of the year. That is the beginning of our year, not January 1st, New Year's, but coming closer to the spring. It says, speaking unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And this is what you were supposed to do. So the 10th day of the first month, you would separate your lamb. And there was a particular way you had to do it. Now, there's nobody out there that really has a farm of lambs, a farm with lambs. You might have a couple of individuals that may have, either they may have lambs, or they may know somebody that has a farm of lambs. But for the most part, nobody has that. So it is impossible to keep this particular law right here of the Passover dealing with the lamb 100% for these guys that brag about keeping the law. It says, and if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls, which we spoke about earlier. Every man according to his eating shall make you your count for the lamb. And like I want to echo a sentiment that Elder Apostle Tahar has been saying for years, that the Passover is not a lamb dinner. You got to remember that what we're doing, this is symbolic for the death of Yahushua. You got guys that want to come, to the Passover so they could drink the yayan, they could sip, they could sip the yayan and eat the lamb, like this asshole Sarnetta, the lamb was good, the wine was good. Well, that's not what this is about. This is a sacrifice. This is a remembrance, of what happened when the Lord delivered us from the land of Egypt, and bringing it up to date to the time of Yahushua, the great sacrifice that Yahushua made. Because this Passover dinner and the blood of that lamb at this time was what protected us from the wrath of Yahweh through his son Yahushua. And this time now, when you come up to the time when Yahushua came on the scene, when he shed his blood, that blood that he shed was also given to the elect in this time, to on their doorpost, so to speak, which this time represents, our mind. Lord's will, we be those men that would cause the Most High Yahweh to pass over our iniquities in this time, so that we won't be destroyed with the world, because this world is condemned. Let's go real quick to the book of 1 Corinthians 11. This was one of my favorite verses in the scriptures. 1 Corinthians 11:32. But when we are judged, we are chastened of the Lord. So this is why we go through all the different things that we go through, that we should not be condemned with the world. Why? Because the world is already condemned. But the men of the Lord are protected and are guided by the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and the blood of Yahushai is what keeps them. That is the mark of the Most High. That is the Thawah of the Most High. And when you go into the Hebrew, the word Thawah means exempt from judgment. And the blood of Yahushai is pretty much which he shed 2,000 years ago, is our exemption today from this destruction that's coming, from Jacob's trouble that's coming. So it's very important that when you keep this feast, or this high holy day, that you don't take it lightly. You go into the Passover, like we had an individual years ago that came to the Passover. He had the baddest garment. I mean, he was bragging and boasting on how he was going to tear the lamb up and tear the wine up. I guess he didn't eat nothing that day. I mean, he was talking cash money shit of what he was going to do to that lamb. This was in the school in Connecticut, when we had the school in Connecticut. And that night, some stuff had came out about him, so we had a council, and pretty much at the end of the council, he was sent home packing before he even got a chance to tear into that lamb and into that wine. Because this is not a lamb dinner. This is not a joke. This is some serious business, man. What Yahushua did 2,000 years ago, this is some serious business, man. This is like a great sacrifice that no one has ever made on the planet. So this is why it's so important to keep the Passover as a solemn assembly in these times, because this is the great sacrifice that Yahushua made, that's going to pass over our iniquities. Because you got to remember, the Most High is pissed off, man. The Most High is ready to do damage, and the only ones that's going to be protected are the ones that are covered by the blood of Yahushua and this second Passover. Because believe it or not, this is going to be a second Passover. Let's go from there to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 16 and verse 14. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, that it shall no more be said, the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, which they're saying this unto this very day. And this is a cold cut, to anyone out there, to let them know that we haven't, that this particular scripture has not been fulfilled, and that it's going to be fulfilled in this time, and this Egypt is speaking about America today, because ancient Egypt was destroyed. We went into captivity under different other nations, and no deliverance from those nations has shadowed or overshadowed the deliverance out of Egypt, to where they're talking about that particular deliverance more than they're talking about the deliverance out of Egypt. They even made a movie, The 10 Commandments, back in the 50s, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, 1956, Cecil B. DeMille, and they did what? The 10 Commandments, which was a movie, even though it was played by Edomites, but it was a depiction of the deliverance that we had from the land of Egypt. So unto this very day, this is spoken of. You even have the so-called Christians, which keep the pagan form of the Passover called Easter, still celebrating that memory unto this very day. But there's going to come a time where the deliverance that the Lord is going to give to us, which is really in this time, is going to overshadow the deliverance out of Egypt. This is Revelation 11:8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. This is speaking about the Israelites, meaning not physically dead, but mentally dead. Because our people here, we've lost our way. This is why it says in Hosea, the 1st chapter, that in the place where it was said unto them, you are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, you are the sons of the living power. So think about that really, really good. Think about that really good. Ponder on that, because this Esau, the so-called white man, has been being called the children of the Most High forever, since the Renaissance period, and we didn't know any different. You know, the so-called Jews and Edomites over there in the land of Israel, they've been being called the people of the Lord for the longest. You know, you have other nations that have claimed, you know, to be the people of the Lord, the Israelites. But the people, the real people of the Lord, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, have not been called that. We've been called niggers, spooks, wetbacks, coons, spear chuckers, you know, beaners, tontos. I mean, every derogatory term under heaven, because that was a curse that was put upon us by the Lord himself, Yahweh, that we would be called a proverb and a byword. So this is the place, America, where the real children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, are getting back their nationality. So it says, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which this is where the great awakening happened. Because this truth really didn't spring out of Africa. This truth didn't really spring out of Europe. It didn't spring out of Australia. It didn't spring out of South America, Central America, Canada. It didn't spring out of Asia, Russia, none of them other places. It sprung out of here, out of so-called North America, which is Babylon the Great, according to the Bible. So this is the place where we woke up, because even all those different camps around the world that are on the streets teaching, in the camps, different camps, whether it be Great Millstone or other camps, they woke up via the internet, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemal Shai, by the camps that are here in so-called North America, Babylon the Great, or the modern day Egypt, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified, and Yahweh Shai himself was crossed out here. He wasn't physically crucified, but he was crucified by crossing out his image and putting up the image of that so-called white man that the world calls Jesus Christ. And this is why we don't like calling upon those names, because as soon as you say those names, the first thing that comes in people's mind is a so-called image of an Edomite, a so-called white person. All right. So this place is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. All right. So when you go back to Jeremiah 16:14, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh Shemal Shai, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, which is still being taught to this day. I challenge anyone out there to give me a high holy day that overshadows what took place in Egypt. It ain't going to happen. You ain't going to find it, because it hasn't happened yet. Because the next deliverance out of the modern day Egypt will be the what exalts the Most High's name, Yahweh, and his son's name, Yahweh Shai, and what overshadows the deliverance out of ancient Egypt. It says, but the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, which is what? North America. Because some people say, well, you know, Babylon was in the north of Israel. Yeah. So was Assyria. So were the Medes. So were the Persians. But which one of those deliverances did, even the Greeks? The Greeks were north of Israel. So which one of those overshadowed the Passover and the deliverance from Egypt? None of them. because nobody's talk really. I mean, they'll talk about it when you're dealing with secular history, as far as the different captivities, but nothing overshadows ancient Egypt, the ancient Egyptian deliverance and the Passover. It says, and from all the lands whither he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. And that hasn't happened yet. When the people of the Lord are back in their land, when the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians are back in their land, that's when this is going to be fulfilled. And people, all nations of the earth will flock to go to worship Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and to give reverence to his law, statutes, and commandments once the real people of the Lord are back in their land. All right. So now let's go back to Exodus. Let's move it forward. Exodus 12:5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Which how do these people know? I ain't gonna call no names. Yeah, I'm gonna call some names. IUIC, ISUPK, GOCC, and all the rest of them alphabet camps. That was an inside joke. Of course, y'all brothers know what I'm talking about. How do they know that when they're eating that lamb? Because sometimes you might go to the store and get the pre-sliced lamb. How do you know you're not eating a female lamb? How you know you're not eating a lamb that was sacrificed to an idol? Oh, well, I go to the halal. Well, the way that they do the halal is could be against the law. I mean, I'm not an expert, so I don't know the specifics of it, but there's certain things that you do that are against the law, that defile the meat. So how do you know you're not eating a female sheep? And I don't really want to speak about anything else because, if I start going on, brothers, brothers gonna be like hesitant to even buy anything when they go to go get lamb. So this is the reason why we're under grace. And this is the reason why the Lord said that we shall eat our bread defiled among the Gentiles. And this is exactly what's happening. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goat. So you could actually have sheep or goats or goat for the lamb. I mean, for the Passover. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the brothers can correct me on that. The brothers from Jamaica, they don't have access to lamb. So they use goat when they use their keep the Passover, So if I'm not mistaken, if the brothers happen to be watching, they could put it down and correct me on that. But I believe that they keep the Passover with the goat, which is lawful to do. It says, and you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. See, so it was a ritual, man. There was an actual way that you had to keep the law. The Lord is very specific in the way that he wants things done. This is why he told Moses, look, when you write these things down, make sure that you write it according to the pattern of the things which you saw on the mount. Because the Most High is very specific in what he does and what he wants and how he wants it done. So it ain't up to us to question why the Most High wants it that way. He's the Most High. He's Yahweh. He wants it that way because that's the way he wants it. The Lord don't got to explain things to us. The scripture say that the secret things belong unto the Most High. It says, and you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. It says, and they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door posts of the houses wherein they shall eat. So this, what we're doing right now, brothers, what we're doing right now is we're eating of the Passover, which that Passover is Yahweh Shai. If you want to know more about it, you can read, I believe it's 1 Corinthians 11 chapter. The whole chapter goes into it, So what we're doing now is back then we physically ate of the lamb and of the Passover. And we took the physical blood of the lamb and struck it on the doorpost and on the side, on the sides of the door. So then when Yahweh Shai came through that night, he actually saw the blood and he passed over that particular house. Okay, Israelites live here. Israelites live there. Israelites live there. Then he started coming down, the Egyptians, and anyone that was in Egypt that weren't covered by the blood, that weren't keeping the Passover, Yahweh Shai killed their firstborn. It says, and they shall eat the flesh in the night, in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. And that's another thing. You have these when this asshole Sarnetta said the wine was good, the lamb was good. He didn't say nothing about the bitter herbs, because I know that little rat bastard didn't eat those bitter herbs. And those bitter herbs was to remind us of the iron furnace or the captivity that we went through, during the time of Egypt. This is why we still keep it to this day, because we're keeping a memorial of what our forefathers went through back then. And the bitter herbs represent that bitter captivity. And America has been a bitter captivity also. It says, eat not of it raw, like Esau likes his meat raw. And this is another way okay, the brother said GMS Hope and Pray, Connell the Apostle, we use goat at the Passover out here in Jamaica. Yeah, which is lawful. It's lawful. But Esau they like their meat rare, and this is how you know that Esau wasn't keeping the Passover, or any of the high holy days of the Lord, because you ain't supposed to be eating your meat raw like that. You're supposed to cook it, man. So you're not supposed to eat of it raw, nor sodden at all with water. You're not supposed to boil it. You're just supposed to put it in the pan and roast it with fire. The best way to really cook it, if you have the means to do it, is to put it on a spit over open fire, and then you just cook the lamb that way. But the way we do it here in America, and I'm sure other parts of the world where brothers, have their means of cooking, is we cook it in the oven. We just put it in aluminum pans, put some aluminum foil over it, and put it in the oven and let it cook. It says with fire, his head and with his legs and with the pertinence there. You're really supposed to do the whole lamb, the whole lamb. You're supposed to cook it like that. But we're under grace, so we have the sliced up, stuff already. Whether you get it at the grocery store or whether you go to your butcher shop and have them chop it up for you, or whatever the case is, It says, and you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. So we can't do this. We can't really burn the rest of the lamb in the fire. So what do? We just throw it away, throw it in the garbage, because we're rehearsing the righteous acts. It says, and thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. So this is Yahweh's Passover. So we weren't supposed to be all comfortable. You got these different groups. They'll have plates, they'll have forks and knives and all that, everything. Don't get simple. If you have your fork and your knife, and everything, because this is a different time, and you could sit down and eat your lamb in peace, so to speak. But back then, we were all fully girded, staff in our hands, eating the Passover lamb fast, quick, in haste. Because remember, that same night, we had to flee from the Egyptian armies. Because when Moses took the children of Israel out of the land of Israel, not too long after that, that's when that spirit of that demon jumped on Pharaoh and said, we're going to go chase after these people. How in the hell did we let them go? They are slaves, So don't get simple, but some brothers don't even use utensils when they eat the Passover. I'm just saying. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you got to remember, this was a Passover that was kept in haste, and this is why to this day we still keep it as a solemn assembly. This was a solemn assembly, because remember, we were fleeing from the Egyptian armies. When Yahushua kept his Passover, it was a solemn assembly, because it was a sorrowful event, because he was about to be crucified. So they wasn't all jolly and happy and and doing backflips, and cartwheels and all that. Yahushua was in heaviness so much that after the Passover, what did he do? He went into the Garden of Gethsemane and started praying. He was in such heaviness that it said that he was sweating blood. That's how much stress he was under. And these people that keep the Passover, these Israelites that are out there teaching and all that, they don't. Sometimes I doubt if they consider that, man. I doubt if they consider the things that Yahushua was actually going through. And the reason why we do the things that we do to this very day, because of the great sacrifice that our big brother Yahushua made, our Lord and Savior, the son of Yahweh. They don't really consider that. You know, to them it's just, oh, it's just another day. You know, we're gonna get some lamb. We're gonna, you know, matter of fact, is so and so cooking the lamb? Because you know he be hooking that thing up. You know. All right. So now it says, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord Yahweh." And the gods of Egypt represents all of their judges. You know, because everybody in Egypt, in the land of Egypt, outside of the nation of Israel, suffered a loss that night, and the Lord brought extreme judgment upon that place. It says, "And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are." And this is why Yahweh's blood is so important nowadays, because with his blood we're covered today. Same way that our forefathers were covered by the blood of them lambs back then. And there's no coincidence that it happened to be a lamb, you know, because Yahweh in the scriptures, you know, later on in the history was known as a lamb, you know. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt, you know. And this is when Yahweh's blood is upon us, and the doorposts are not to now represent our minds, our spirit, you know. And when Yahweh sees that thawah, you know, that brothers are exempt from judgment, judgment will not come upon every individual brother out there and sister, you know, that has that mark upon them, the mark of Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh. All right, so now let's jump around. I mean, we may come back to this, you know, if the spirit allows. If not, we're moving on. But let's go to Exodus 14, because as I said, this individual here, Nate the snake, he they got him in the middle of the Red Sea, but it's really the Gulf of Suez, pushing the waters back. That's not how it went down. You see, they can't even get that right, you know. They can't even get that right, man. So let's go to Exodus 14:1, and we're going to jump around here too. "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel that they turn and encamp before Pahah-Hiroth, between Migdal and the sea, over against Baal-Zephon. Before it shall you encamp by the sea." So they were encamping by the sea. You understand? They were encamping by the sea. So that means, what that means is this, that they were here on the coast of this body of water here. They were encamping by it, right? It says, "For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land. The wilderness has shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh." Why? Because the Most High was honored with putting him to death. This is why in the 15th chapter, you have the Song of Moses, which pretty much was a song of the destruction and deliverance from Egypt. So I will not be surprised if after, because the scripture said that we'll be affrighted, but still give praise to the Most High. So I wouldn't be surprised if when the kingdom of heaven is established, there'll be another song and praising him, speaking about or honoring the day when we be delivered out of modern day Egypt, which is America, Babylon the Great. And the Most High is going to be honored upon the modern day Pharaoh, which is Esau. Because Esau, although Esau is ruling with the other nations, it's their kingdom that has encompassed the whole world. And these other nations are pretty much, like you can say, joint heirs with him, you know, because he gives them a little piece of the pie, you know. But the rest of the nation of Israel does not have any inheritance or any foothold in this place, you know, in this world, except if they sell out, you know, and sell their soul. So it says, and upon all the whole, all his hosts, and that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and they did so. So they're gonna know when this by the time this whole thing is over and done with, they're gonna know that the power, the God, the power, the entity, the spirit that is doing all of these things, that has created the earth, that has brought all these plagues upon the earth, that has done everything, that has brought this great deliverance, that is bringing these plagues, that is bringing these prophecies to come to pass, that his name is Yahweh and his son's name is Yahweh Shai. They're going to know this. And this is what it means when you read the scriptures, that when the Lord delivered us from the Egyptians, that's when the Most High's name was fully exalted. That's when the nations knew, oh, Yahweh did that. You know, it's not that all of a sudden the Most High's name Yahweh just appeared on you know. No, when the scriptures say that by his name was he not known to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, meaning he wasn't fully known, like well known. That's the point. The word well known. It wasn't made famous. The name of Yahweh was not made famous until the deliverance from the land of Egypt. That's when his name really became famous. That's when it became renowned. So that when all the nations of the earth looked at us, they thought about our power and the great deliverance that he brought upon us. And this is why a lot of them, when we were in the wilderness, did not want us to pass through their land, because they didn't want the same thing that happened to Egypt that happened to them. You know? So they abhorred us. They avoided us like the plague. All right. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people. And they said, why have we done this? That we have let Israel go from serving us. Man, we let our slaves go, man. The hell's going on here? What did we do? We bugging out over here. But that was the Lord hardening the heart of Pharaoh and of his military. And he made ready his chariot and took his people with him. So the Pharaoh actually went with the Egyptian armies, not like these faggots today, these generals or these Edomite generals and all that. They'll send the grunts in there, which is a lot of time, you have Esau in there too, but you have Jake, up in there, getting put to death while the general is all comfy and back home somewhere, farting in the wind and all that. It says, and he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt and captains over every one of them. So he took everything that he had. I mean, he didn't spare no expenses, So that shows you, man, that the Lord put a heavy spirit on Pharaoh and his army to come against Israel hard. It says, and the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel, and the children of Israel went out with an high hand, because the Lord was there guiding us, guiding our forefathers. And there was another point that came to mind, but it kind of passed right now. So if it comes back, I'll bring it back up. But the Egyptians pursued after them, all the horses and the chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them encamping by the sea. See, so they were still encamping by the sea. Moses was not in the middle of the sea pushing the water back, and then drops of water was sprinkling on him, on his garment, on his beard, and he was just pushing the water back. And all of a sudden you see the water, No, man. This situation took a long time, because it was I believe the scripture say it was an east wind that came through and drove the sea to part, the Gulf to part. And then what made this even more spectacular, not just the fact that the Lord parted the sea through using Moses, right? But that when they walked on the when Moses and the children of Israel walked on that ground, it was dry. It wasn't muddy, it wasn't miry, it wasn't a little wet, it was completely dry. Man. But here it is, this individual, this demon here, he's inside of the Gulf of, supposedly inside the Gulf of Suez with his hands. And you see, I'm not making this up. There's nothing in his hands. Does anybody, can I get a witness? Can I get a witness, please? Does anybody see anything in this individual's hands? I don't see anything in his hands. All right. Let's read on. It says, beside Pihahiroth, before Baal Zephon. It says, come on, man. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. And they were sore afraid, and the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. You got a witness here, Khan. I tell them, it's Shalom, the water. Because I'm looking at you. I got my head turned away from the computer. I'm looking at you, and I don't see nothing in that man's hands. I don't see nothing in his hands. All I see is his hands up, like if he's trying to stop somebody. You know, like a cop. Uh-oh. And they said unto Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness. You know, so they were cursing Moses out, you know, like always. It says, wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? So Jake wanted, they look, hold up, man. Hold up. Let's go to, what is that? Jeremiah 2, right? Let's see. Jeremiah 2 and what is it? 14. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? So we weren't supposed to be no servants, but Jake has the mentality of being servants. They have a mentality of a defeated servant, you know, of a defeated slave that tried to escape one too many times and he just gave up. You know, this is the mentality of most Israelites out here, most Jakes out here. You know, they have that defeated spirit. That's why I said that they wanted to go back and be the servant. They wanted to stay being servants in that hard-ass affliction. For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. See? And this is why the Most High was so angry with our forefathers back then. You know what I'm saying? They actually saw all these miracles. We haven't seen nothing like that in these times. They actually saw these things back then, and they still didn't believe. And that just shows you, man, that it's the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua that has to open up your spirit to believe or not to believe. So verse 13, and Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh. So he said, don't worry about it. Just stand still. In other words, you know, keep calm and watch the salvation of the Lord. And watch how the Lord is going to deliver us out of this situation. That takes faith, man. That's so profound, man. You know, here it is against all odds. You know, you still have that what's the word I'm looking for? That resolve in you through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, which is given by Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, to still hope and believe, even though things seem like it's all against you. Like it seems like there's no hope. But then somewhere, somehow, some way, the deliverance comes. And that, man, whew, that's bad, man. Which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. So Moses was like in a trance when he said these things. Remember, when the spirit of the Lord jumps on you, man, you're like in a trance. You become a different person. You know, it says, the Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Dig it. They ain't going to be able to talk shit. And the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. But lift thou up thy rod. Who? What? Huh? What? What did that say? Lift thou up thy what? Thy rod. What is that? I see nothing but hands here. They couldn't even get that right. And where were they? Encamping by the sea. So Moses was on land with his rod, which is what? His staff. Let's go to it. Thy rod, right? The word rod is H4294. Masa. I'm sorry, mata, not a sa, mata. The ta and the sa look similar, you know, but it's mata. It says staff, branch, tribe, staff, rod, shaft, branch, tribe, company led by with chief with staff. So it was a staff that he had on his hand, the same staff that he used when he went before Pharaoh and threw his staff down, and it was turned into a serpent. Then Moses, then the Egyptian, the Pharaoh's enchanters, I guess you could call them, or witches, they threw two of their staffs down, and their staffs became two serpents. And then the miracle of it was that Moses' serpent ate their serpents. Heavy. So he had a staff in his hand. They couldn't even get that right here. Right? It says, but lift up thy rod and stretch out thine hand over the sea. Not in the midst of the sea, over the sea. He's in the midst of it. Over the sea. Right here. On the side here. So he was on the side with his hands lifted up, with the staff in his hand, over the sea. And he was, through the Spirit of the Lord, he was making the sea to split and in the Gulf and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them, and I will get me honor upon Pharaoh. She said it again, and upon all his hosts. So you have these dickheads out there, these so-called scholars, these so-called Edomite, so-called that they claim to be experts in the Bible, that say that Pharaoh didn't drown in the Red Sea. The Most High said he was going to get him honor upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts. And there's other scriptures that tell you that Pharaoh was actually in there. But they're like, nope, Pharaoh got away. No, he didn't, you fucking devils. Just like you're not going to get away. Upon his chariots and upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh. And that's when they understood it, man. We're not dealing with these people. We're dealing with their power. Because the gods of the nations are what? Just idols. When I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the angel of the Most High, which went before the camp of Israel, which is who? Yahweh Shai. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 10th chapter. Oops. 10th chapter. It says, moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea. So this cloud that followed them, which was actually a chariot, which was a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, which means it lit the way for them, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, which we're reading about, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, which eventually, they got the manna from heaven, and did all drink the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Hamashiach, Yahushai. See? So Yahushai followed them. So this angel that is speaking of here is speaking about Yahushai, and the angel of the Most High, which went before the camp of Israel, which is Yahushai. All right. It says, removed and went behind them. So this chariot that was guiding them all night, big gigantic chariot, shifted from being where the Israelites were. It went all the way behind, because you remember they're walking, you know, it's a bunch of people walking in line. So the chariot went all the way at the end of Israel, and it came down, and it divided the nation of Israel from the Egyptian army. And the chariot, which has lights, the front part of the chariot was lit, but the Lord turned off the back part of the chariot so that there were no lights for the Egyptians. That's bad, man. That's bad, man. It says, and it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud and darkness to them. To who? To the Egyptians. But it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all the night, because it took all night because the Most High could have just snapped his fingers and it could have just like the walls of Jericho when they actually just fell. But the Most High is dramatic. You got the Greek word for God is what? Theos, which goes back to the word what? Theater. So the Most High is the greatest dramatic. You know? So he made it all night. Here it is, Moses holding his hand up with his staff in his hand, not Nate. And the wind came and started separating the water. Okay? And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. What? Not in the sea, but over the sea. It says, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night. Not in a couple of seconds. And made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. So you got to think of it that way. The water, here it is, 1 minute you had water there. Next minute the water's departed, and you're walking on dry ground. You know when the water comes up when you're at the beach and the water comes up to the sand and the water goes back out, when you step on that sand, it's still wet. So the Lord caused it to be dry for the children of Israel to pass on it. Man, if that ain't power, I don't know what is. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground. That's right. The Most High is powerful. That's right, brother Akom Yasha'Allah. It says, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Now, I don't know how many brothers out there have actually gone to an aquarium. When you go to an aquarium, you see in the aquarium that they have the glass, and you could actually see the sea life in there. You know, whether it be a shark, whether it be different type of fish, you know, octopus or whatever, you know. So this was like, you know, I mean, it was dark, but remember, you had the light from the chariots in the front of the chariot. So they probably seen different type of fish, you know, swimming around in there. Damn, that's bad, man. You know, they had their own aquarium, pretty much. You know, so you have fish swimming in there. So they probably seen the actual fish swimming in there, because the light of the chariots would have lit all that up in there. It says, and the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots and his horsemen. So everybody went up in there. Pharaoh, his armies, their horses, their chariots. And it came to pass that in the morning watch, the Lord Yahweh looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians. So the Most High was troubling them, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them heavily. So that the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord Yahweh fighteth for them against the Egyptians. So when this whole deal goes down, these devils are going to know that the power of the heavens, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, is with us, man. Because he's going to trouble these devils, man. He's going to trouble them. So like, I got to try to calm down a little bit because it's a little late over here. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand over the sea, and that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon the chariots, upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea. So when he got to the other side of the sea, of the Gulf, right, he stretched out his hand once again, and the waters came back together. And that's when the Egyptians drowned. It says, and the sea returned to its strength when the morning appeared. And so it was all, this is an all-night deal, man. And the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots. And this is when you read the 15th chapter, it goes into the deliverance, you know, and that's the song of Moses, that's deliverance. So there's going to be another song. I believe there's going to be another song, you know, when we get out of here. You know, brothers that could sing, and I know I definitely can't sing, you know, but brothers that could sing, more than likely will probably be singing a beautiful song of the deliverance out of Babylon the Great, America. Babylon is falling. It says, and the horsemen and all the hosts of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them, there remained not so much as one of them, because they all drowned. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. And this is the same thing that's going to go down in these times. But this time it's called America, which is spiritually Egypt. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. So they actually saw the bodies of this great military washing up on the shore. Like if you watch the movie Saving Private Ryan, or them different World War II movies or World War I movies, and you see like bodies that are on the shore that are washing up with their blood, you know, that they got shot up and killed, you know, that'll give you like a indication or a visual, so to speak, of what this is speaking about. It says, and Israel saw that great work which the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua did upon the Egyptians. And earlier, a brother put a scripture up, in the book of Isaiah. I don't know if he actually put the scripture up or just mentioned it. But this is going to be a great work, man. Isaiah 28 and 21. For the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua shall rise up as in Mount Perazim. He shall be wroth as in the valley of Gibeon, that he may do his work, his strange work, and bring to pass his act, his strange act. So this is what's going to take place here again in America. It's going to be a strange work and a strange act, the same way he did in ancient Egypt. And Israel saw the great work which the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua did upon the Egyptians, and the people feared the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua and believed the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua and his servant Moses. And this is when they're going to know that a prophet has been among them. This is when they're really going to fear the Most High Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua and reverence the men of the Lord, you know, beginning with the men of Great Millstone, you know. So we got a great day coming, brothers, you know, and all we could do is pray and beg and plead Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua to keep us, you know, until that day. You know, the brother GMS Vegas, sit down, Sirach 36:3, lift up thy hand against the strange nations and let them see thy power. And they will see that power. Beautiful scripture, bro. They will see that power. They are going to see it. You know, it's going to be something. Brother Sean Moore, Isaiah 19:1, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud and shall come into Egypt. Yep. And the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. That's right. Because the Lord said that there's going to be a visitation upon these different idols of America. And it's not just dealing with a church or actual idol that they've carved out. It's also dealing with actual people, men that have been set up in positions of idols. Verse 4 from Sirach 36. As thou was sanctified in us before them, so be thou magnified among them before us. Yep, shorten the days. That's right, brother. Show new signs and make other strange wonders. Glorify thy hand and thy right arm, that they may set forth thy wondrous works. And that's what's happening right now. But we're at the point now where it's not really fully happening, but things are happening as far as prophecies are concerned. But when the time comes, the Lord is going to magnify everything, and this is why through the Spirit we did a lesson a while back, I believe it was probably last year, where the Lord is going to bring divine intervention, because that's the only thing that's going to deliver us, just like the Lord delivered us, our forefathers, from the armies of the Egyptians, because they were coming hard, man, with their chariots and all that. They were harnessed up. They had all types of bow and arrows and spears and swords and shields and all that. They just knew they was going to decimate the children of Israel, but the Lord turned it around on them. The brother Itaza 1, Wisdom of Solomon 5 and 2. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear. They shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all that they look for. Because they're not looking for this, man. They're not looking for the great visions and the great works that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is going to do upon this earth, man. So, we say it all the time, but, we're hoping that this is the last, Passover that we keep, here on this side, in America, and that the next time we keep a Passover, it'll be the new Passover in the kingdom of heaven, because this devil is due to go down, he's finished. So with that, I'm gonna sign off, my brothers, for the time being, for now. Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua Ratazah, which means the Most High will. I'll come at you with another lesson, and I'll bring you more edification in the scriptures. So with that, I hope you brothers have learned something. Till the next time I say Shalom.